Every once in a while, I like to dig out and dust off one of our old progress videos. We used these back in the day to accompany our diary to show you what we're doing. And this is progress 22. I just chose one at random. And it begins with one of the in-hull tests we did on Bluebird's power plant ahead of going out on the water. I've added some photographs, I've added some explanations, and this is the whole thing reworked and remastered, if you like. So enjoy. We lost count of how many of these in-hull tests we did. Just setting up systems, making sure the linkages worked, instruments worked, systems worked, getting it all set up and tuned and made it work perfectly inside the boat. And once the test was finished, often as it was getting dark, we'd take the boat back in and we'd take the engine back out. And the crew became very, very adept at getting those engines in and out. And yes, we did a lot of work on the engine in and out and tuned and put back, but that wasn't really the thing. The thing then was to have something to bolt it to. Yes, we kept quite a stable of engines, and we still do, the one in the middle's for training. But what we really needed, as we always told people when they said, what about an engine? We said, well, engines are easy, but what we really need is something to bolt it into. And remember that torn down floor from the underwater footage? Well, there it is before we fixed it. Bluebird's entire forward floor came out of the lake in one soggy, mud-covered, weed-strewn mess. The technique was to put the divers in with a couple of sets of mole grips and haul it from the surface. It was just too dangerous to use lift bags when you weren't sure what you were lifting. And that there is the first part of Bluebird to strike the water in the accident. And once dismantled, nothing daunted. It wasn't long before we'd put some patches in, and then we put smaller patches in and found rivet holes, welded rivet holes, made new rivet holes, and eventually we got this part back in. And when you see the floors after that, you can see they're all original, all the way to the back of the boat too. There's a lot of work in that photograph. Another hard-won save was the left-hand cockpit wall. The oval blister you see was to allow a bit of the steering to protrude through, and you can see where the vertical frame tube has been stamped into it. The actual cockpit wall was in a terrible, terrible state when it was recovered, but we took the blister off, and you can see there is a tiny little bit of the original 1956 Bluebird blue. We cut that little piece out and polished it and gave it to the museum as a permanent record of what colour Bluebird blue was right in the beginning. On the inside of the panel, that diagonal line of screws is a throwback to when Bluebird was first launched in wooden plane and they fixed skins between the sponson and the hull side to try and make it lift. We put them back. Every last one of those rivet holes was welded up and dressed off on the inner structure, and then they were all re-drilled and countersunk from the outside. And while that went on, work continued on the forward floor, on the outer skin this time. The outer skin repair was tricky because it was a material it didn't like to weld. In fact, we were told it couldn't be welded, but of course it could, really. It did, however, take a lot of fine-tuning because of all the changes of direction of that lip that runs around the outside, but we got there eventually. This is the opposite cockpit wall. We built this one from scratch because the original was just too too far gone. It was blown outwards and demolished, and all those parts came together roughly at the same time. The panel on the side, aft of the cockpit wall, the lower floor, it all came together as one pretty big lump. And all the while, work continued on the main floor that spans from front to back. Paint off this time. And we just kept marching backwards from there, back towards the rear of the boat. An empty spar box made redundant when Bluebird's spar was raised in the very early attempts to make a plane. And throughout, the central hull was suspended in a rollover jig, so it should be turned through 360 degrees for access. The repaired blister for the left-hand cockpit wall. We always call that the soldier's hat. It hasn't got a big stamp mark through the middle of it now. And the main outer floor, 18 feet of it when it's complete. That all had to be repaired one end to the other too. And those green sections are strips of 3/16 aluminium with helicoils in to bolt on the flow directors from the outside. And the finished job, all sealed down with chalky sauce, thousands of rivets, painted, fixed on for once and for all. The original flow directors completely repaired and refurbished and put back exactly where they came from. The whole front floor completely original. That was an epic win. We fought for that one and we won. One part we didn't have to repair, we didn't try to repair, was the original planing surface because it was immaculately preserved and so tough it couldn't be broken. We just put it back on. And again, these little guide rails that position it, they were never touched. They were de-riveted, put on the shelf, wiped with a cloth and riveted back on. We gave the threads that fix it down a nice gentle clean, and those wooden strips you see between the corrugations were another part that were just wiped with a cloth and put straight back. All the bolts and washers were original, we just had to put everything back as we'd found it. And not without the obligatory chalky sauce. It might look like chalky sauce, but it's a polysulfide sealant that keeps the water out and prevents any dissimilar metal corrosion. And with the original plates bolted back on, washers on, wire locking done, that was Bluebird's plating surface back on.
And there you have it. Progress 22, 2026 version. All the other ones are still there in their original form in the BluebirdK7 rebuild playlist on the channel if you want to watch them as they were. And I will get another one up shortly and give it a good clean up and add to it, bring it up to date. In the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.